What's up everyone, I am Clay, and today we are taking a look at another third-party controller for your Nintendo Switch. We've looked at Hori and we've looked at 8BitDo, so now it's time to try out a controller made by PDP. The Faceoff Deluxe Plus Audio Wired Controller. I know the name is a mouthful, but let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. I've covered a few third-party Switch accessories on here, like the Hori Split Pad Pro and the Racing Wheel Pro Mini, along with the relatively tiny triple D-Pad 8BitDo Lite. And in the end, the only real contender to a Pro Controller replacement was the 8BitDo Lite, and saying that honestly is a big stretch. I know it's a little old at this point, but let me introduce you to the Faceoff Deluxe Plus Audio Wired Controller from PDP. While the name is certainly a mouthful, the controller takes the form factor of the Pro Controller, removes a couple of features, and adds some of its own, then presents you with an incredibly solid alternative for just $25. On the topic of removing features, it seems like that's something a lot of companies are doing for these aftermarket Switch controllers. Honestly, I can see why companies like PDP would ditch some of the aspects of the Pro Controller. If they start to add in wireless connectivity, NFC, rumble, gyro, that $25 price tag starts to creep up towards the Pro Controller price of $60. Even with rumble, NFC, and gyro missing, my biggest complaint about this thing is the fact that it's wired. You have a generously long USB cable, so it isn't truly an issue, but I would have loved for this to have somehow been wireless, even if that would have increased the price slightly. What you lose from the Pro Controller is made up by the fact that PDP solves one of my biggest complaints about the $60 official option. They have included a 3.5mm headphone jack on the bottom of the controller, which does support headsets with microphones. How Nintendo didn't think to include that on their own controller when Microsoft and Sony both offer it is really beyond me. Aside from the Finicky D-Pad, the biggest complaint I've heard about the Pro Controller is the lack of a headphone jack. Plugging in a headset to your controller works great for games like, Fortnite and other games that manage to bypass Nintendo's app for voice chatting. However, if you plan on using it for Splatoon or Smash Brothers, you will still need to use their official method. One nice little bonus they added here is this little function button, and with your headphones plugged in, if you press and hold it while pressing up and down on the D-pad, you can control the volume separately from the system volume, giving you the perfect blend of high or low, whatever you want. Adding a headphone jack to this controller is perfect for me because now I can play my games at night on my TV with sound and not disturb my entire family. The new features that PDP added don't stop with a headphone jack and a USB connection. They took cues from other manufacturers and added paddles to the back of the controller, right about where your middle fingers rest. Unlike the programmable buttons that Hori provides on their Split Pad Pro Joy-Con replacements, the PDP paddles can be mapped to any button on the controller, including the home and screenshot buttons if you so desire. And programming these is also rather simple. You just press and hold the function button on the bottom, press the paddle you want to program, then press the button you want it mapped to. You'll see the LED blink a few times and you're good to go. Then, if you want to unprogram the paddle, simply press the function button and then the paddle that you want unmapped. Something I found odd and never really figured out why it's a thing is the cover plate for the paddles on the back can be removed. Maybe this is for cleaning or something else, but I never really found a reason for it and nothing in their user manual said anything about it. On the topic of removing cover plates, the main feature that PDP is touting here on its Faceoff controller is the fact that the face plates are easily removed and swappable between controllers. When I say easy, I mean it. A couple quick little pops and you are ready for swapping. The standard base controller seems to only come in these camo colors, and as you can see here, I've got the purple and the red version, but there are also a black and a blue camo version as well. When I first started testing these out, I wondered what the actual point was, since all you seemed to be able to do was swap back and forth between the four colors, which made no sense to do. I searched the internet to see if I could purchase the faceplates as separate pieces, but couldn't find anything, so I reached out to PDP directly and was told that the individual faceplate kits are sold on their website under the category Mod Kits. There aren't really that many options, but there are a few different ones, and even some that change the style of the D-pad to match that of the Xbox One Elite controller. To me personally, that is the least impressive feature of this controller, even though the name puts it front and center. I am much more impressed with the audio jack on the bottom and the paddle buttons on the back. Now that I've covered the features of this controller, and on paper that makes this seem like a standout product, I'm sure you are wondering how this controller actually performs. And spoilers, like I said before, my only big complaint about this thing is that it's wired. What that means is that the feel of the Faceoff is top notch. The entire controller has a slight texture to it that makes gripping it rather easy and never feels like it's going to slip from your hands. Each button and trigger have good travel and a satisfying press, while the sticks are tight and responsive. I will say that one mark against the sticks is the fact that they have a little bit too much lip on them. When compared to something like the Xbox One controller or even the official Nintendo Pro controller, the amount of lip these have can become a tad uncomfortable on your thumbs during longer sessions. A very minor issue, but still an issue nonetheless. This next tiny negative mark is probably more of a personal issue than anything with the actual controller. I have larger hands and the placement of the paddles is a little less than ideal for me. I would typically want something like this to fall at my fingertip, but instead these end up being right in the middle of my finger. This makes pressing them mid-play slightly awkward, which ultimately led to me not using them. Again, your mileage may vary, but just be warned. The D-pad feels great, and while it is no 8-bit dough D-pad, it does feel 10 times better than that of the official Pro controller, and even the button D-pad of the Joy-Cons don't compare to this thing. Even with the minor flaws, I cannot stress enough how solid of a controller this actually is. The quality of the buttons, the thoughtfully added features, everything adds up to this controller being one of the best on the market for the $25 price point. If you're fine with losing NFC, gyro, and rumble, which I am at this point, you can't beat the Faceoff Deluxe Plus audio wired controller from PDP. Well, there you go. This is my take on the PDP Faceoff controller. For $25, this is a solid controller. If you're fine with being tethered to the Switch dock, not having NFC, rumble, or gyro controls. Personally, the lack of these features didn't bother me nearly as much as I thought it would, especially given the fact that we get the programmable buttons on the back and that handy little audio jack. The ability to swap faceplates is a nice little bonus, but I doubt that I will ever change these things out. If you are using this controller or have another third-party controller that you absolutely love, let me know down there in that comment section. And until next time, take care everyone.